Running Lab 2, running a simple command with Bolt. In this exercise, we'll run a simple ping command through Bolt on a target host. Since you will not have access to the remote lab to test the system until the workshop, we will use localhost to target your local workstation. That means you can use Bolt to run things locally too. This is probably more useful when applying tasks, plans, and Puppet code, but it's also sometimes used for testing and will work as an example for usage during this lab. The process is slightly different between Windows, Mac OS, and Linux target, so use the appropriate section for your workstation. Now, once again, I only put this together for Windows systems. Okay? So now we've already got our PowerShell up. So we're going to copy this script, Bolt, command run ping. Now, note here, our command starts out with Bolt. We're telling it what to do. We're telling it to run. We use double quotes to enclose our action that it's going to run. So we're going to tell it to ping 8.8.8.8, which is the Google DNS server. Now, what is -N2? We're telling this. In Windows, this is not a problem. We don't put a number in here. And it explains this a little farther into this. Okay, now number is the number of times you want this to run. In Windows, it defaults to 4 times. In Mac or Linux or Unix, it will continue to run until you hit Control-C and exit out of it. Okay, sometimes I have to hit Control-Alt to exit out of it. So you have to have the number in there, so it's a good practice to always place it in. But remember, Windows will run 4 pings and then it exits. Okay, now we close our command we're running and we're saying our target. So target or -- targets localhost means it's going to run on your local machine. Now, in the video that I watched and the PowerPoints that I pulled this from, we have to give a note here. It says, please note that the -- nodes command was depreciated in version 2. And then it goes on to explain how the number 2 is the number of pings to be sent out. And more than 2 pings, you can change the number of packets to send. Okay? Now, you'll observe the output of Bolt and you should see something resembling the screenshot below. Now, in the next slides, I have developed several other commands that we would normally run in our environments to troubleshoot in networking. Okay? And remember, you can run these on a remote host that you have access to. Okay? Now, I'm going to move to the next slide. And we're looking at an actual screenshot from our PowerShell. So we ran the Bolt command, run ping 8.8.8.8 -N space 2 targets localhost. It started on the localhost, it ran a few seconds, it finished on the localhost, and our standard output. And it's just pinging 8.8.8 with 32 bytes of data. We have a reply just like you would see if you were in the command prompt and you were typing ping 8.8.8. Okay? It gives a round trip. It's the same thing except you did it from Bolt in PowerShell and ran it against your local machine. This can very easily be sent against something else. Okay? So now we're going to look at the command for NSLOOKUP. So I modified the command. It's still Bolt command run. Double quote. Now I put in NSLOOKUP 8.8.8.8. It's enclosed in double quotes. Our targets are -- targets localhost. We start on the localhost. We finished on the localhost. Our standard output. Our server's unknown, which is address 192.168.43.1, which is my cell phone. The name is DNS Google, and the address is 8.8.8. Okay? Very simply, same thing you would do in a command prompt on any Windows machine. We're going to go to the next one. Bolt command run ipconfig /all -- target localhost. We've run it. It gives us exactly the same thing that you would see if you were running it through the command prompt. But I can see all kinds of uses for this to test whether a remote machine was up and responding. Now, at this point, we're just troubleshooting a machine. Think of all the other uses we could do with this. Now, this is a simple bolt command run, double quote, trace route 8.8.8.8, close the double quotes, dash targets, localhost. This is exactly what you would see tracing a route to Google. Okay, and in my case, it starts on my cell phone. Then we went to the Verizon tower, the Verizon tower, the Verizon, and then we go down until we're on Alternet, then we hit Google servers. Okay, it ran on the target and it took almost a minute, 52.78 seconds. So now we'll go another step. Now, we're going to talk about SSH or WRM. If you have access to a remote node with SSH or WRM, you can try running the commands against them as well. Make sure to use the double quote WNRM : / quote prefix when targeting remote Windows nodes. Now you have to have this enabled in Windows. So that's an entire different lab that we have to set this up. Now you note here that they're running the bolt command run, single quote echo hello world, exclamation point single quote dash nodes. Now nodes is no longer supported. This command would be changed to target. WinRN : / we've got in the node name dash user and with a username, and the user in my case on this piece laptop would be the user would be student, and the -p says it specifies a password. Now you can specify SSH and do the same thing for SSH targets. Okay, and this is the default, so it's not needed. Another possibility, you use the dash transport option instead of a prefix. The bolt command run hello echo world dash node transport WinRM -u usr -p. The U option allows you to specify the user to connect on the target host. If you're logging in as the administrator, where it says USR, that's administrator. Now if you just put in the dash password, it allows you to specify a password, but you don't need to put the password in the command line. You'll be asked to enter it much like you do when you SSH into a machine. You get username, which you've already sent in, and it's going to come back and ask you for a password, or if you're trying to telnet in. Okay. Now, we're not demonstrating these in the labs. I'm just making you aware of the command and the syntax. Okay. Note on the interactive processes in Bolt. It's important to run the C2 option with the ping command when running against Mac or Linux targets. If this option is omitted, the invoke command will run continuously and will never return control back to Bolt. If you accidentally omit this option, press the Control C and Bolt will interrupt the current run. So you saw how your screen, you ran the command and it said started on localhost. If you omitted the C2, it would never come back to you. It would just continue to run against a local host. When you hit the Control C, you would end it. If you put in the N space, the -N space 2, it would run 2 pings, and then it returns the control back, and you would see the response from end on localhost, and then it would see the standard output. This exemplifies the need for invoke commands and scripts to run without user interaction with Bolt. If you must interact, tasks and plans are likely a better option. These will be covered in the workshop, and they were. I have the slide decks for the workshop. I may be able to put together a video on how to do it. John has promised one, but they've run 3 workshops in 3 days, I think is what he said. If I can, I will. It may not be this semester, but I want to go through these because I would really like to introduce these to our classes and start some automation as you guys go out into the world. Okay, now we're going to install the Microsoft Visual Studio Code. Microsoft Visual Studio Code, VS Code, is a lightweight, open-source, multi-platform code editor. It's ideally suited for our use with Bolt and developing scripts and configuration files for multiple languages. It includes syntax highlighting, linting, and integrates well with source control. It also includes syntax. I'm not sure why he has it in there twice, but I'm going to leave it as it is. It's also highly extensible via a multitude of extensions. Downloads are available from https:// code.visualstudio.com. So we browse to that, we download the installer for the OS, and we can run it using the MSI or EXI, which will run and install it, or we can do Windows Chocolatey users Choco install VS Code. Now I've already installed VS Code, but I've given you example in the next line. So here we have gone in and we've done user student bolt directory Choco install VS Code. You're seeing an example here of all of the things that it brings down and installs, and it's installed 4 of 4 packages. And this is what you would see in a command prompt and or in the PowerShell to install this. Okay. Now we're going to move along. So we're going to install the Puppet Development Kit, the PDK. It is a useful package of tools to help you develop, validate, and test bolt tasks, plans, and other Puppet code. By default, the PDK installs to C:\program files /puppet labs /development kit on Windows. Installing with the MSI is very simple. We download and install the PDK package for Windows. Here's the link to it. We double click it and install it. We reopen any existing PowerShell windows to enable the PDK. Now on PowerShell 4.0 or later, the PDK automatically loads and the PDK commands are available in the prompt. On PowerShell 2.0 or 3.0, you'll have to add it to the module to your profile. Okay, with Chocolatey is very simple. To install the PDK with Chocolatey in a package manager for Windows, Chocolatey must be installed prior to the use of this method for installing the PDK. We've already done this, right? We installed it before. So now install the PDK by running Choco install PDK from PowerShell. Reopen any existing PowerShell windows to enable access to the PDK tools. On PowerShell 4.0 or later, the PDK automatically loads and PDK commands are available. Once again, under 2.0 or 3.0, you'll have to add it to your profile. PowerShell versions 2 and 3 cannot automatically discover and load the PDK module, so you have to do it manually. Now, this is just the code of how to do it manually if you've got 2 or 3. If you've got 4.0, which would be in the modern Windows 10 systems, you don't need to worry about this particular set of commands. Okay, now we're going to move on to Lab 5. Lab 5 is configuring the VS Code for use with Puppet extension and PDK. To make things a little easier, we're going to get VS Code configured to use the official Puppet extension to interact directly with the PDK. This allows for syntax highlighting, intelligence sense for resources, parameters, linting, and more. Install the official Puppet VS Code extension. Now, I'm going to walk you through this. I've given examples for this, and this is something that I had to modify because John and the guys at Puppet had put this together over a year ago. Okay? They had moved this extension, the one that they recommended in the video, is depreciated, and when it first came up, the VS Code extensions first came up, you couldn't search for it because they were telling you to look for something that was no longer available. So I went in, changed some things for you, and I've given you examples throughout this video of how to do it. Okay, so what I've pushed you to where it should go. I've given you a set of quick keys, Control plus Shift plus X, and that should take you right into the search extension marketplace search box, and just type in Puppet. Now the one that you want at this present time is 0.25.2 in the search box, so we'll move on to that so I can give you an example. Now here is the welcome screen when you first open the VS Code. Here is the installing the official Puppet VS Code extension. You see we're in File, Preferences, Extensions, or we simply just typed in Control plus Shift plus X, and that's going to bring us directly to the next screen. As you note right here, you are in the Search Extensions Marketplace. Type in, at this point you see I've already installed Puppet 0.25. It's the official Puppet VS Code extension. But if we just type Puppet in here, we're going to see this. And you see Puppet 0.24.2. It's depreciate, migrate to Puppet 025.2. This is the one we've installed. And if you notice over here, you would select this. If you didn't have it installed, you would click the green install bar here. And this will install the extension package. Once installed, the button will be replaced with the gear icon. You will note that I've got Puppet 0.25.2 official Puppet VS Code extension here, and here is the gear that says it's installed. Now we're going to move on. Configuring the Puppet extension to use the PDK. Now once again, we're going to have to go in and edit some settings. So we can go the long way. VS Code, we click the exe, we click File, Preferences, Setting. You can also access this by just simply pressing Control and a comma. Make sure User Settings are selected, and then click to expand extensions and select Puppet. You also search for Puppet install type in the settings search field to make it easier to find. Scroll down to Puppet installation type and select PDK from the drop down. I've given you an example in the next slide. Puppet extension selected, scroll down to PDK, and you'll notice here we are in the user settings. We're going to scroll down to Puppet. We're going to go down to PDK. We're going to enable it. And you'd notice I already installed and tested the Puppet 0.25.2 extension. Now, I'm going to give you references. I'm hoping to do a couple of more videos before we have to have these turned in for the classes. But here is the link to the Puppet Volt video I was required to watch prior to the virtual training. Since the video was created, Bolt 2 was released and the setup video was outdated. I updated the code. How to add the Puppet extension to the VS program. I created some simple Bolt scripts we use in network troubleshooting. I created you a tiny URL here. This takes you to how to install Bolt. This install Chocolatey on Windows. This is install the VS Code. Now, if there's any questions, be sure to contact me at dmiller@cmo.edu. Thank you very much and have a good day.